That clipboard hitting the concrete floor still echoes in my head, not dropped, not placed down, just released like Brandon was letting go of dead weight. The safety inspection forms scattered across the factory floor while he stood there with that smirk, telling me how things were going to change around here. I'm Russell Coleman, 47 years old, and I walked into that morning thinking we were discussing the quarterly production review. Instead, I got handed a reality check that changed everything. The document was simple enough. Effective immediately. Russell Coleman transitions to operations consultant under efficiency director Jennifer Walsh. That's corporate speak for you're now reporting to a 28-year-old MBA who thinks precision manufacturing is just another cost center to optimize. But let me back up and tell you how I got here. I'd been production supervisor at Walsh Precision Manufacturing for 18 years. Started when Lucas was 2 years old and Amanda was pregnant with Sarah. Back then, this place was a disaster waiting to happen. Quality protocols existed on paper, but nowhere else. Workers cutting corners because nobody enforced procedures. We had 4 rejected shipments in my first month alone. I built that quality program from nothing. Trained every supervisor, implemented inspection procedures that actually worked. We went from client complaints to 6 years without a single quality failure. Every protocol, every inspection checklist, every precision standard, I'd written it after seeing what happens when you skip steps. Brandon Walsh, the owner's son who became CEO 2 years ago, had been taking credit for our quality record ever since. The guy inherited a profitable company and somehow convinced himself he'd invented precision manufacturing. Every board meeting, every client visit, he'd stand up there talking about our operational excellence, like he'd personally prevented every defect. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Coffee at 6 a.m., quick walk through the production floor, office by 6:45. Same routine I'd followed since my manufacturing certification program days. Lucas was finishing his associate degree at community college, working part-time at the auto shop. Sarah was in her junior year at State, studying business, making us proud. Good kids, both of them. The mortgage had 7 years left at $1,850 a month. Everything was steady, predictable, should have been my first warning. Around 9:30, Michelle Rodriguez knocked on my office door. Michelle never interrupted unless something was serious. Her voice was tight when she said Brandon needed to see me on the floor immediately, like she already knew something I didn't. I grabbed my hard hat and clipboard, thinking maybe it was about the new CNC machine installation or the client audit scheduled for next month. The production floor always felt different when the machines were running. That steady rhythm of hydraulic presses, the whir of precision spindles, the background hum that tells you everything's operating within parameters. I'd walked this floor thousands of times for inspections, training sessions, quality reviews, never once thinking it might be for something like this. Brandon was standing by the main machining line with some woman I'd never seen before. Expensive suit, clean hands, the kind of person who looked uncomfortable around actual machinery. Brandon was shouting over the equipment noise, gesturing at production charts like he was explaining rocket science instead of basic manufacturing. When he saw me approaching, Brandon held up his hand for the machines to cycle down. The sudden quiet felt wrong, like when the ventilation system shuts off and you notice the air isn't moving anymore. Russell, come over here. Want you to meet Jennifer Walsh. She's our new efficiency director. MBA from Stanford, specializes in lean manufacturing implementation. Efficiency director. We'd never had an efficiency director before, and the way Brandon said it, with that emphasis, told me exactly where this was heading. Before I could respond, Brandon pulled out a manila folder from his briefcase. No ceremony, no explanation, just handed it over like he was passing along maintenance reports. Strategic restructuring, he said, finally making eye contact. The board's been discussing operational optimization. We need fresh perspectives on manufacturing efficiency. I opened the folder, expecting new quality protocols or equipment upgrades. Instead, I saw my title crossed out in red ink and replaced with operations consultant. My salary stayed the same, but every line of authority had been stripped away. Everything I'd built over 18 years was being handed to someone who probably couldn't tell the difference between a micrometer and a caliper. You want me to train my replacement? I asked, keeping my voice level over the machine noise. Brandon adjusted his safety glasses with that smirk he'd perfected in business school. I want you to mentor the future. Russell, Jennifer understands where manufacturing is heading. Data analytics, process optimization, waste elimination protocols. The board thinks we need someone who speaks that language, The board, Brandon's way of saying he'd made the decision and didn't want to own it directly. Jennifer was standing there nodding like she understood what we were discussing, but I could tell from her expression she was still figuring out which machines did what. Jennifer's waiting in conference room 2, Brandon continued. Figured you could start the knowledge transfer immediately. Knowledge transfer, 18 years of quality protocols, crisis management, worker relationships, equipment maintenance schedules, all of it reduced to knowledge transfer, like I was handing over a software manual. Something shifted inside me right then, listening to those hydraulic systems cycling back up, feeling the vibration through the concrete floor, but I kept my expression neutral. When does this take effect? Today? I know it's a big change, but I'm confident you'll help Jennifer succeed. I closed the folder and handed it back. That was the moment I realized Brandon hadn't demoted me because I'd failed. He did it because he assumed I'd accept it quietly, professionally, without resistance. I'll head over to conference room 2, I said, adjusting my hard hat. Walking toward that meeting felt like a death march. The production floor seemed louder than usual, and I could feel eyes on me from every workstation I passed. Word travels fast in manufacturing environments, especially bad news. Conference room 2 was the small one, with flickering fluorescents and a table that had seen better days. Not exactly where you'd expect to hand over the keys to a multi-million-dollar operation, but I guess that was the point. This wasn't a celebration or transition ceremony. This was a quiet transfer of responsibility from someone who'd earned it to someone who'd been appointed. Jennifer was already there when I walked in, scrolling through her phone with one hand and taking notes with the other. When she saw me, she stood up and extended her hand like we were meeting at a business conference. Russell, great to finally meet you. Brandon told me about the mentoring arrangement. I'm really excited to learn from someone with your experience. Experience? My 18-year track record reduced to experience. I sat down across from her and pulled out my inspection reports. What exactly did Brandon tell you about this arrangement? Her face lit up like she'd won the lottery. That you're going to show me how operations work around here. All the systems and processes and best practices. I'm really looking forward to applying some modern efficiency principles to what you've built. Modern efficiency principles applied to systems that hadn't had a quality failure in 6 years. Where do you want to start? I asked. I don't know. Maybe we could start with the biggest inefficiencies, the processes that are costing us the most in terms of productivity. Productivity. Not quality, not worker safety, not equipment longevity, productivity. Jennifer, let me show you our quality protocols first. Everything else builds from there. For the next 2 hours, I walked her through the basics, our inspection procedures that kept defective parts from reaching clients, the maintenance schedules that prevented equipment failures, the documentation system that tracked problems before they became disasters. Jennifer took notes for about 20 minutes. Then she started checking her phone. Then she started asking questions that made my stomach clench. Why do we need so many inspection checkpoints? Couldn't we reduce these by maybe 40% and still maintain quality standards? What if we implemented predictive maintenance using sensors instead of scheduled inspections? Have you considered gamifying the quality protocols to increase worker engagement? Gamifying quality protocols? She wanted to turn precision manufacturing into some kind of point system. 30 minutes in, I realized she wasn't writing down quality procedures. She was sketching what looked like flow charts with efficiency percentages and cost reduction targets. This is a lot of redundancy, she said after I'd explained our pre-shift quality meetings for the 3rd time. Maybe we could streamline these into a digital checklist that supervisors could complete in half the time. Digital checklist for procedures that required visual inspection of equipment, verification of precision settings, and face-to-face communication with operators who needed to understand exactly what could ruin a $50,000 batch if they made mistakes. Jennifer, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, these aren't inefficiencies. Each checkpoint prevents defects. When that CNC machine drifts out of tolerance, you need trained eyes and experienced judgment to catch problems before we ship bad parts. You can't automate precision. She nodded enthusiastically. Right? But what if we used AI-powered sensors to monitor equipment performance and predict maintenance needs? Machine learning could probably identify patterns we're missing. Machine learning. This woman was going to be responsible for the quality control of precision components. and she thought machine learning could replace human judgment in thousandths of an inch tolerances. At one point, she looked up from her efficiency calculations and asked the question that cut deeper than anything Brandon had said.
Russell, why didn't Brandon just promote you to efficiency director? You obviously know this stuff better than anyone. Simple, innocent question.
And the answer was more complicated than a 28-year-old would understand, because Brandon didn't value quiet competence. He valued people who reflected his vision of the future back at him. Jennifer wasn't qualified, but she was young, educated, and spoke the buzzword language that Brandon thought meant innovation. She was moldable in a way I'd never been. I'd spent 18 years telling Brandon when his cost-cutting ideas would create quality problems, when his production pressures were unrealistic, when his equipment purchases were wrong for our applications. I'd save the company money by saying no to dangerous shortcuts, but saying no doesn't get you promoted. It gets you replaced by someone who says yes to everything. We finished the session around noon. Jennifer stood up, gathered her notes, and said, "Thanks, Russell. I know this transition is probably strange for you, but I think we can really optimize operations here. You've built something solid, and now we can make it efficient. Efficient. 6 years without quality failures reduced to something that could be made efficient." "When do you want to continue?" I asked. "Tomorrow, same time. Oh, and could you put together a summary document with all the critical protocols? That would help me prioritize which processes to streamline first." A summary document. She wanted me to compress 18 years of quality knowledge into bullet points, so she could decide which protections to eliminate. That evening, driving home with both hands gripping the steering wheel, I kept thinking about Jennifer's question. Why didn't Brandon just promote me to efficiency director? Because efficiency wasn't really about improving operations. It was about Brandon proving he was forward-thinking, progressive, in touch with modern business practices. And you can't prove you're revolutionary by promoting the guy who's been quietly maintaining quality for 18 years. Amanda was in the kitchen when I got home helping Sarah with her accounting homework at the dining room table. Lucas was at his evening shift at the auto shop. Wouldn't be back until after 9 normal family routine, but nothing felt normal anymore. "How was your day?" Amanda asked, looking up from Sarah's textbook. I almost told her everything right then, about the demotion, about Jennifer, about feeling like everything I'd built was being handed over to someone who didn't understand it. But Sarah was stressed about her exam, and Amanda had been working double shifts at the clinic all week. They had enough on their plates. "Same as always," I said. "How's the homework going?" Sarah looked up with that determined expression she gets when she's frustrated. "These depreciation calculations don't make sense. Why would you depreciate something that's still working perfectly?" I sat down next to her, because things lose value over time, even if they're still functional. It's not about whether something works, it's about whether it's worth what you originally paid for it. She stared at me for a moment. "That seems unfair." "Yeah," I said, thinking about my 18 years of experience being reduced to a mentoring arrangement. "Sometimes it is." My phone buzzed at a red light the next morning. Text message from Andrew Phillips, a number I recognized from the Regional Manufacturing Association. Andrew had retired as plant manager from Coleman Industries 3 years ago, built his own consulting firm helping mid-size manufacturers improve operations. "Russell, heard through industry contacts about your situation at Walsh. Coffee this week. I've got a proposition that might interest you." I stared at that message until someone honked behind me. Andrew Phillips wanted to meet, a guy who'd actually built something real, who understood what manufacturing operations meant. For the first time in 48 hours, I felt something other than resignation. The next 3 weeks were painful to watch. Jennifer started implementing changes immediately, before she understood why the current systems existed. She eliminated 2 daily quality checkpoints because they were redundant. She reduced pre-shift meetings from 15 minutes to 5 minutes to increase productivity. She created a digital reporting system that was supposed to streamline documentation, but actually made it harder to track patterns and identify problems before they became serious. The first real problem came on a Thursday. One of our biggest clients, Elite Automotive, called about a batch of transmission components that were failing quality checks at their assembly plant. Parts that should have been held to tolerances of plus or minus 0.002 inches were coming in at 0.008. That's the difference between parts that fit perfectly and parts that cause vibration, noise, and eventual failure. Jennifer was in Brandon's office when I got the call. I knocked on the door and explained the situation. "How did this get past our inspection?" Brandon asked, looking at Jennifer. Jennifer pulled out her tablet. According to my optimization analysis, we eliminated one of the redundant checkpoints in that production line. The remaining inspections should have caught any issues. I looked at both of them. That redundant checkpoint was specifically designed to catch drift in the secondary machining operation. The primary inspection happens before heat treatment, when dimensions can still shift. You need both checkpoints to ensure final tolerances. Brandon frowned. Can we fix this batch? No, I said. These parts are scrap. We'll need to remake the entire order. That's 2 days of production and about $85,000 in materials and labor. Jennifer was typing on her tablet. This seems like an isolated incident. One data point doesn't invalidate the efficiency improvements. One data point, $85,000 in losses reduced to one data point. Elite Automotive has been our client for 8 years, I said. They trust us because we've never shipped them defective parts. This kind of failure damages that relationship. I'll handle the client call, Brandon said. Jennifer, let's review your optimization protocols to make sure this doesn't happen again. I wasn't included in that review. I found out later they decided to add a digital measurement step to replace the inspection Jennifer had eliminated. Digital measurement that would catch the same problems a trained inspector would have caught, but only after the parts were already machined and heat-teetered when it was too late to fix them. I met Andrew at Murphy's Diner on Thursday morning. One of those places that's been around forever where you can actually have a conversation without competing with espresso machines and laptop computers. Andrew was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 regular coffees and no briefcase in sight. That told me something right there. Russell, good to see you again, he said, standing to shake my hand. Firm grip, direct eye contact. None of that corporate performance you get from guys like Brandon. We sat down and Andrew got straight to the point. I've been watching your quality record at Walsh for years. 6 years without failures. Best client satisfaction ratings in the region. Worker productivity scores that make other plants jealous. That doesn't happen by accident. I'd never heard anyone quantify my work like that. Brandon took credit for the numbers without understanding how they were achieved. To him, good quality records just appeared because he was CEO. Andrew pulled out a single sheet of paper from his jacket pocket. Not a PowerPoint presentation, not a formal proposal, just 1 page with handwritten notes. I'm expanding my consulting practice. Need a partner, not an employee. Someone who understands quality and operations from the ground up. Someone who can work with plant managers who actually want to improve instead of just cutting costs. Partner, not consultant, not advisor, not senior anything. Partner. What's the timeline? I asked, trying not to sound too eager. Whenever you're ready, I know you've got college payments, mortgage, real responsibilities. I'm not asking you to jump without looking. But Russell, understand this. What Brandon's doing isn't about efficiency or modern practices. It's about a weak manager feeling threatened by someone who actually knows how to run things properly. He was right. Of course, I'd known it for months, but hadn't wanted to admit it. Brandon wasn't interested in improving operations. He was interested in surrounding himself with people who made him feel smart. There's something else, Andrew continued. Lisa Patterson at Elite Automotive called me last week. She's concerned about quality control since you've been sidelined. 2 other clients have reached out asking about alternatives. They don't know you're my first choice for partner, but they remember who actually solved their problems. That hit harder than I expected. These were relationships I'd built over years. Clients who trusted me personally, and they were already looking for alternatives because they could see the quality declining. I drove home that afternoon thinking about everything Andrew had said. Sarah's tuition was due in 8 weeks, $14,500 for the semester. Lucas would be transferring to a 4-year school soon, and even with community college credits, we were looking at serious money. The mortgage payment was $1,850 every month for 7 more years. I couldn't just walk away from steady income, no matter how appealing Andrew's offer sounded. But I also couldn't keep watching Jennifer eliminate quality protocols that kept our reputation intact. That evening at dinner, Lucas was telling us about his automotive technology classes. Professor Martinez says the best mechanics aren't the ones with the newest diagnostic equipment. They're the ones who understand how systems work together, who can hear problems before the computer catches them. Sarah looked up from her plate. That sounds old-fashioned. No, Lucas said. It's about understanding the fundamentals. You can have all the technology in the world, but if you don't understand what you're measuring, the data doesn't mean anything. Amanda caught my eye across the table. She'd been watching me lately, noticing the tension I thought I was hiding. "Everything okay at work?" she asked after the kids went upstairs. I almost told her everything then. About the demotion. About watching 18 years of work being dismantled by someone who thought manufacturing was just data points on a spreadsheet. About Andrew's offer and the impossible choice between financial security and professional dignity. Instead, I said, "Just busy." "New management changes, you know how it is." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't buying it. Amanda had been with me through plant shutdowns, equipment failures, and client crises. She knew the difference between work stress and something deeper. The next 3 weeks at Walsh were painful. Without me managing daily quality oversight, problems started appearing fast. An inspection procedure Jennifer had streamlined resulted in a batch of parts being shipped with wrong tolerances. A pre-shift check she'd eliminated missed a calibration drift that ruined an entire production run. An incident report she'd simplified provided no useful information when the client called asking questions. None of it was officially my fault, but Brandon kept calling me into his office, asking me to fix things quietly. I was still responsible for cleaning up the disasters, but Jennifer got credit for any improvements that worked. The breaking point came on a Friday afternoon. Brandon scheduled an emergency meeting with our biggest client for Monday and demanded I prepare a comprehensive quality compliance report in 3 hours, a full analysis of defect rates, training records, equipment calibration logs, and process documentation. The kind of report that usually took me 2 days to compile properly. "Just pull together the highlights," he said, standing in my doorway like he was doing me a favor. "Make it look good for Elite Automotive. Make it look good." 18 years of quality protocols reduced to making Brandon look competent for people who actually understood manufacturing. I looked at him standing there checking his watch impatiently, and something inside me finally snapped. "This report will take 2 days to do properly. Russell, I need it in 3 hours. Elite expects detailed documentation. Then maybe Jennifer should prepare it. She's the efficiency director now." Brandon's expression tightened. "Jennifer doesn't have your experience with the historical data." "No, she doesn't. But if she's taking over operations, she needs to learn how to handle client presentations." "Look, I'm not asking. I'm telling you to have this ready by 4 p.m. I stood up slowly. "Brandon, I've spent 18 years making you look competent to people who matter. I've prevented failures, maintained relationships, and covered for every shortcut you've tried to implement. But I'm done being your safety net while you pretend someone else can do my job." He stared at me, probably shocked that I'd finally said what we both knew was true. "You want this report? Have Jennifer prepare it. She's the future of operations, right? Let her prove it." That night, I called Andrew. "I'm ready." "Good. When can you start? I need to give 2 weeks' notice." Andrew laughed. "Russell, you don't owe them anything after what they've done. But if that's how you want to handle it, I respect that." I wrote my resignation letter at the kitchen table while Sarah studied for her accounting exam. Short, professional, clean. No accusations, no emotional outbursts. Just notice that I was leaving to pursue other opportunities. When I finished, I read it twice, not to edit it, but because part of me couldn't believe I'd actually written it. Then I printed it, signed it, and set it on my nightstand. For the first time in months, I slept through the night, without worrying about what crisis would be waiting for me in the morning. Monday morning, I walked into Walsh Precision Manufacturing knowing it would be one of my last times. Same routine, coffee at 6 a.m., production floor by 6:45 minus, but everything felt different. The resignation letter was folded in my shirt pocket, and for the first time in months, I wasn't dreading the day ahead. Brandon's office door was already open when I got there. He was on the phone, pacing behind his desk and gesturing like he was delivering a presentation instead of explaining to some supplier why their delivery was 2 weeks late. When he saw me, he held up one finger and mouth 1 second, like I was interrupting something important. That tiny gesture crystallized everything wrong with our relationship. I wasn't waiting anymore. When he finally hung up, he pointed at the chair across from his desk. "Russell, about that compliance report. I need it ready by 10 a.m. for the Elite meeting." I didn't sit down. Instead, I stepped forward and placed the folded resignation letter in the center of his desk. It took him a moment to process what he was looking at. The confident expression faded, and I watched him realize this wasn't another report or maintenance request. "What is this?" he asked, unfolding the paper. "My resignation, effective 2 weeks from today, He read it twice, like the words might change if he looked harder. "You're quitting?" "Yes." "Russell, you're being dramatic. This makes you look unprofessional, like you're running away because things didn't go your way." I met his eyes without flinching. "I'm not running, Brandon. I'm leaving." "There's a difference." He leaned back in his chair, trying to regain control. "You know you'll never find another position like this at your age. Not with comparable benefits. Not with the kind of stability we offer here. At my age, finally out in the open." "You're right. I probably won't find another position like this one." His smirk started to return, like he'd won the argument. "I'm gonna find something better." The smirk disappeared. "I'll finish my 2 weeks professionally. After that, I'm done." Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Walsh Precision Manufacturing begin to unravel. Without me managing daily quality oversight, small problems became big problems. Jennifer tried to implement some kind of digital efficiency system that crashed every other day. A major client called threatening to cancel their contract because nobody could answer basic questions about process capabilities. The quality compliance issues hit $31,000 in penalties by the end of my second week. My last day came with no farewell lunch, no recognition, no awkward goodbye speech, just quiet handshakes from the workers who understood what was really happening. Jason Hendricks, the union rep, pulled me aside. "Place won't be the same without you, Russell." "Maybe that's not entirely bad," I replied. Monday morning, I walked into Phillips Manufacturing Consulting. Real office space, professional atmosphere, people who looked up when I entered instead of pretending I was invisible. Andrew introduced me to the team as his partner, not his new hire. "Russell's going to handle all quality and operations consulting," he told them. "He's got more hands-on manufacturing experience than most consultants have in their entire careers." The first client call came Tuesday afternoon. Lisa Patterson from Elite Automotive, in an account I'd managed for 7 years at Walsh. "Russell, thank goodness," she said when she heard my voice. "I've been trying to get straight answers from your old team for 2 weeks. Nothing but confusion and delays." I walked her through a solution step by step, just like I had dozens of times before. By the end of the call, she'd signed a 1-year consulting contract with Phillips Manufacturing. Finally, someone who actually knows what they're talking about. She said before hanging up. That's how it started. Word traveled fast in our industry. Other clients I'd worked with for years started calling, asking about the change. Suppliers reached out wanting to know about new opportunities, not because I was actively recruiting, but because they knew I'd give them reliable answers and proven solutions. Within 6 months, Phillips Manufacturing Consulting had doubled in size. We hired 6 new consultants, opened a second office location, and landed contracts with 14 mid-size manufacturers. My name went on the letterhead next to Andrew's. Equal partners, just like he'd promised. The collapse of Walsh Precision Manufacturing happened faster than anyone expected. Jason Hendricks called me one afternoon, his voice strained. "Russell, it's a complete disaster over here. Jennifer quit last week after the efficiency system caused another shutdown. Michelle Rodriguez gave notice this morning. 3 more clients canceled their contracts. Brandon's been locked in his office for 4 days, and nobody knows what's happening." I didn't feel triumphant hearing that. I felt confirmed. The work I'd been doing for 18 years was real. The problems I'd been preventing were genuine. I hadn't been overstating my value or being dramatic about quality concerns. 9 months after I left, Walsh Precision Manufacturing filed for bankruptcy protection. Brandon tried calling me once, something about consulting opportunities and helping them restructure, but I didn't return the call. That chapter was closed. Meanwhile, Phillips Manufacturing kept growing. We opened a 3rd location, hired 10 consultants total, and this year we're on track to hit $1.8 million in annual revenue. Andrew and I are already planning the next expansion phase. At the regional manufacturing conference last month, I saw Brandon across the room. He looked smaller, older, like he'd aged 4 years and 20 months. Our eyes met for a moment, and he started walking toward me, then stopped halfway and turned around. Maybe he realized he had nothing to say that would matter. Looking back, the hardest part wasn't the demotion or the disrespect. It was staying somewhere that refused to see the value of experience. I spent 18 years telling myself loyalty mattered more than recognition, that patience would eventually be rewarded. But here's what I learned. You can't save a place that's determined to ignore the foundation holding it up. Experience isn't outdated, no matter what younger managers think, and sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding somewhere else. Andrew tells people I saved his consulting firm, but that's not true. Andrew gave me a place to do what I'd always done, just with recognition instead of exploitation. The best part, Sarah graduated debt-free last spring with her business degree. Lucas is transferring to state in the fall with most of his credits covered. The mortgage has 4 years left, and I wake up every morning knowing my work matters to people who understand its value. I'm 47 years old, partner in a successful consulting firm, and finally working with people who appreciate what 18 years of manufacturing experience actually means. Sometimes walking away with dignity teaches more than any confrontation ever could. Your reputation follows you long after your title is forgotten. Invest in relationships and competence, not corporate politics. The right opportunity doesn't wait for perfect timing. It waits for someone ready to recognize their own worth. Sometimes the biggest risk isn't leaving a bad situation, but staying in it long enough to forget what you're truly capable of. Sometimes the biggest risk isn't leaving a bad situation, but staying in it long enough to forget what you're truly capable of achieving when people actually value your expertise. Your reputation follows you long after your title is forgotten. Invest in relationships and proven competence, not corporate politics, because the right opportunity doesn't wait for perfect timing. It waits for someone ready to recognize their own worth.